Looks like for you guys, kids come to the front, right? Is that what you guys do, or just you're welcome to come up front, or you can just kind of listen. It's your call. Teens, you can join in if you want. I know we had some little ones in here earlier that are not in here anymore. They're running crazy. So we're going to talk about this is my family. If you haven't seen them already, and I've got two older sons. And their wives. My name is Aaron, and my wife, my beautiful wife, Amanda. And then the boys you see in the picture, the tallest one there is Elijah. He's 15. Isaac is 10, soon to be 11. The one in the red shirt is David, and our little Grace is 2 years old. I've got two older boys, John and AJ. They are 26 and 22. They're both married. We have just traveled, most recently from Wadena, but we come from South Carolina, was our last stop, but we actually live in Davenport, Iowa, the Quad Cities. If you happen to know where like John Deere headquarters is in Moline, Illinois, that's kind of like they have a big presence there. So we are going to go to the border of South Sudan and Uganda in just a couple weeks. We're heading off there. If you want to know more about us, you're techie, you're welcome to scan that little QR code and learn about us. Can you flip to the other? I just realized that we're on the first slideshow, but or the second slideshow, but we need to be in the first for the kids. I made it extra difficult for the tech team. I sent them two different slideshows in two different formats. So for the kids, have any of you ever heard the verse Romans 3:23? Anybody know it? Can you say it? All right. I mean, you're on stage. Say it nice and loud. For by grace you have been saved through faith. Oh, that's Ephesians. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. There we go. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Is the verse that we're going to kind of key in on, and we're going to talk about the story in Genesis 3. And the main point we're going to get to is that we all start off the same. We're going to play a little game in the beginning, and you can do this right where you're at. So we're going to see how much you and me are alike. Okay, adults, you can play along if you want to. So I'm going to say something that is true about me, and if it's true about you, I want you to raise your hand, okay? So when I was a kid, I had a mom and a dad. If you're alive today, you had one of those. Yes. When I was a kid, I didn't normally look like that, though. I normally look like this. Aww, so cute. Yeah, what happened? When I was a kid, I liked to run around as a kid. Anybody true of, yeah? I liked watching TV as a kid. Yeah? Okay. You guys are so participatory. That's great. I liked eating pizza. This is a good night for many of you tonight, right? I liked candy. You get older, maybe you lose some of the taste of that. Nobody's eating Pixie Sticks at 50. If you are, you got problems. I liked juice. I love juice. I want some juice, right? When I was a kid, I used to color in coloring books. Yeah, well, we had a lot of commonality here. I listened to music. Yeah. I went to church. A lot of you. Very, very impressive. I did bad things. Okay, some of you are not raising your hand, and you should be. So, I didn't like getting in trouble. You can raise both hands for that, like to do bad things. I can tell. I didn't like to get in trouble. Is that true of all of us, right? Yeah. Let's take a look at some people in Uganda. I'm going to help you. This is kind of where I live. That's the Mississippi River that you see there. And I live on one side, and my older boys, they live on the other side. This is called the Quad Cities. And you might have to hit the space bar. It's a video here. It's not, no. Good old technology. Well, it was going to zoom out, and I was going to show you where Uganda was. Oh, you're going to try to do it? They're very off-road. In fact, they're, thanks. The Go Tech team again. Yeah, good. The roads are all like this. They're all off-road. There's no pavement anywhere in sight in most of the country. Their fruit is different. The things they eat, that's jackfruit. It's really huge. The way they carry things, they move things around differently than us, right? I don't know how many of you kids could balance that kind of stuff on your head. I saw kids carrying really big stuff. They learn really early how to carry big, heavy things. Their churches look different than yours. It's a very open concept that they go for. They have buildings that look like this. They're mosque, right? That other religions worship in. And many believe in a fake, false God in that area. Where you go to grocery stores looks a little different. It's where you go and get your food. I just kind of lay it out on a blanket under a tree and you shop. And the things they eat are a little bit different. I don't know if you can tell, but over here, one of the things that Ugandans love to eat as snacks is grasshoppers. So that's a big bucket of grasshoppers. Right here, the kids really like to eat termites or white ants. They supposedly taste like kind of cinnamony. This is a meal I had. I didn't eat those two things. And this is pretty normal. Over here is something called posho. It's a little bit different than what we would have over here. But these are just some collard greens and beans and rice. Over here, anybody want to guess what those are? They are. They're rats or mice. You just barbecue them up with some hot sauce. I did not eat that either. But Jacob Lee, who's been there, has. So yeah, some different food. Their meals are different. They get cleaned to eat differently. So this lady is walking around with a bucket and with some water, and we're washing her hands, and she's pouring water over our hands because there's no sinks where we're going. And so we get cleaned to get ready to eat, because a lot of times you eat with your hands. You don't have like forks and spoons and knives. They have different animals, right? A little bit different than like the deer that you see over there, right? Those big tall ones, those are like African deer called giraffe. And so there's all kinds of animals over there. But I want to remind you that though there are differences in a lot of ways with the people there, we're all made in the image of God. And we all want to be loved. We have all been created by God for a reason. And God wants all of us to love Him, obey Him, and spend forever with Him. And we all do bad things called sin, right? God tells us in Genesis 3 about a story of Adam and Eve. They sinned against God, right? They disobeyed Him. And because of their sin, all creation became broken. And humans would be born sinners, which means we want to do wrong. We don't have to be taught to do that. And because they rebelled and they disobeyed God, we all want to grow up wanting to do those same wrong things. Like we mentioned earlier, Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. How many people have sinned or done wrong? Everyone, right? All of them. All of us. Do all people all over the world sin too? Yes, everyone does. And me and my family are going to some people in Uganda, and people over there are different in a lot of ways, but they're a lot like us. They sin just like we do. They disobey their parents. They're selfish. They get angry when they don't get what they want. And worst of all, they don't love God like they should. And that's the biggest sin. So God tells us that being sinners, we fall short of the glory. Anybody knows what it means to fall short of the glory of God? Anybody know? It means that we're not like God. We're not as perfect as God is, right? We don't hit that mark. We miss it. And so we need Christ. Did Adam and Eve get in trouble for their sin? Yes. Do we get in trouble for our sin? Yes. Who are we in trouble with? God, right? We're in trouble with God. Adam and Eve was in trouble with God. We're in trouble with God for the sin that we do. Do people in Uganda, are they in trouble for their sin? Yes. So we need to make sure that we tell them, hey, if you're in trouble with God, you've done wrong. But what's the answer? Is that all bad news? It's not all bad news, right? There's some good news. The gospel. That Jesus came. God sent His Son to die as a punishment for their sin. He took their place. And He paid for their sin on the cross. And then He rose again, proving He was God. That's the good news we want to tell Him. We want to let them know that, listen, even though you guys are much different than us in a lot of ways, we're really very much the same. We're all sinners. We all do wrong. We're all in trouble with God until we come to Him humbly and ask Him to save us, admitting we're sinners and we need Him. And so that's what me and my family are going to do. If you have not done that, I of course would encourage you to talk to a parent or talk to a pastor to know what that's like. What is it like to know Jesus, to know God as your Savior, to not be in trouble with God anymore, right? To know that you're going to be in heaven with Him forever one day. And that's a good message, not just for kids, but for adults. So for us, let's jump to our message. I'll have my wife come up. And she loves to talk. And so I'm going to make her do all the talking. It's not true. I do have a microphone for you.
You'll just have to switch it on and then use it.
There you go.
Stand inside the blue line.
That's right.
Okay.
So wait for them to...
I'm going to introduce ourselves again.
You can.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I already did that part. Sorry. It
Okay,
was
so
up.
I'm Amanda. I'm Aaron's wife. Is that it?
He's working on it.
Oh.
I told you we made it hard for your
I told you I
tech
like to be
people.
behind the scenes.
While they're working that, I'll just tell you, you saw some of my pictures as a kid, right? And how ugly and cute I was back then. I grew up in a Christian home. My parents were believers, and I went to church all the time. And one night I went to an Awana meeting on a Wednesday night, and the person there was talking about heaven and hell. My parents had told me I'd prayed a prayer one time when I was 5, and I actually got baptized after that. But when I was 8 and I heard that message, I realized that I didn't actually know God. I knew that as good as I looked on the outside to people, I fell far short, like we talked about. I fell far short of the glory of God. And I needed a Savior. And so I cried out to God to save me. I admitted that I was a really bad person on the inside. I wanted to do the wrong things. And I was guilty. And so I asked Jesus to save me. And He did. And I continued to grow up in church. And one day I met my wife. But she'll talk about her story now. There's some more cute pictures of me. Yeah. That's the dorky high school picture. Yeah. I'm 18 there, but I look like I'm 12. So this is my wife.
So I too was born and raised in a Christian home, and when I was about 4.5 years old, my mom died, and about 8 months later, my dad remarried. That's the new family there, and we were in church every time the doors were open. I was raised in Awana clubs, and then as a teenager in Word of Life Club Ministries. And I remember when I was 7 going forward in children's church and praying the prayer, and soon got baptized after that. And for several weeks afterwards, I'd go forward again and pray the prayer. And after like the 3rd time, the teacher was like, "You don't have to keep coming up. You've already done this." I'm like, "Okay." And just, continue to grow in the church and everything, and learning the Bible verses and all the right answers. And but when I was 13 at summer camp up in New York, I realized I didn't have a personal relationship with Christ. I knew about Him, but He wasn't in my heart. And so I made that right. And that was life-changing for me. And then my stepmom and I did not have a good relationship throughout the years. And senior year, she was like, "You need to go off to Word of Life Bible Institute. If you don't go, I'm not going to support any decision you make for the rest of your life." So I was like, "Peace out." So I was like, "Stay home and be miserable, or go away and be miserable." So I chose to go away and be miserable. And I did. I hated being there. I did not want to be there at all. And being forced to do your quiet time every single day and being in Bible classes and stuff, God just started to chisel away at my heart. And I'm so thankful He did. And I'm thankful He brought Aaron into my life when He did, because if He met me that first semester, he wouldn't have liked me. So Aaron came in January as a January student, and I was a totally different person by then. So I'm thankful that God brought us together.
And I did like her.
Not initially, and we can have a whole night of talking about that. But yeah, we met at Word of Life Bible Institute. He was standing behind me in line at registration, and I just turned around and introduced myself to him, and forgot his name right away.
Yep.
And I was the first person he had met, so he hung out with me and my friends, and we just became best friends right away, and I fell in love with him pretty hard. And we just celebrated 25 years together in June, so by God's grace, right?
Yep.
I know, I always cry. I'm sorry, David. Where are we at?
We get married.
Okay, So we're married.
Yeah, 25 years. And so after marriage, I went off to Bible school. My wife put me through that. She actually worked at the school that I graduated from. And I went off to be a youth pastor and a Bible teacher at a middle school and high school. And have been a youth pastor in different churches, mostly in the Southeast. And then God moved me to Sioux City, Iowa, to take a position. And then now our home is in Davenport, Iowa. And now I work with young adults. I've worked with young adults for the last 9 years because I'm too old to be cool to work with teenagers. One night I was reading some devotional in my devotional time in the Old Testament and felt God's call to be a missionary, which was crazy because when I was in high school, I felt the call to ministry, which was also crazy because I was super, super shy and quiet. It's hard to believe if you know me now, but I would keep my mouth closed in even small groups. No confidence, just scared. And so when God called, it was definitely like a Moses, like you got the wrong guy. But my youth pastor gave me opportunities, encouraged me, and I was slightly pushed into Word of Life. I wanted to go, but then I was afraid. But he grew me, and he often will equip you, sometimes after you say yes. And so the same thing with missions. The joke was like, I could never be a missionary. I will die of starvation. I'm a picky eater. I know it doesn't look like it, but my wife's a good cook. It was just, and I'm older. Like I thought missions was for like 20-year-olds shortly out of college, right? Not someone who has a bunch of kids who's middle-aged, and so long story short, we ended up connecting up with ABWE, and that's the Association of Baptists for World Evangelism, and we talked to a guy that was the director of Africa. We already felt called to Africa. Felt called to Uganda. That was kind of an interesting story where we had not talked to each other, and we were just trying to figure out where did God want us and to do what. And I called her up one day on my way home and said, hey, why don't you look at some of the stuff I've been looking at and see if you feel any pull to a country. And she said, what if I already do? And I said, well, where? And she said, well, where do you feel the pull? And I said, I asked you first. And so on the count of three, we both say the country we felt kind of burdened to, and 1, 2, 3, there's a lot of countries in Africa. We both said Uganda. And so we're like, okay, well, we're just going to keep moving forward in that direction, right? And so ABWE, talked to them. I said, hey, I'm really interested in training pastors and reaching unreached people, right? So unreached people, if you guys don't know, these are people groups where less than 2% would claim to be Christian, right? So this is where the gospel is most needed, right? People in these areas have little to no access to the gospel, often don't have a Bible in their language, and so I saw the need, was great to go to a place like that. But I was confused because I looked at Uganda, and nationally it looked very similar to the United States as far as percentages of Christians and Catholics and Muslims, and right? And so it didn't look like an unreached place. And so I was confused. God, why did you give me these burdens that seem to conflict? And so I'm talking to the guy from ABW, and he said, well, man, I can't believe it, but we just partnered with this ministry called Reaching Africa's Unreached in northern Uganda, and they are training pastors and reaching the last native unreached people group in Uganda, the Aringa, that are dominated by Islam. And so that was another, like, okay, like that's, God continuing to put the puzzle pieces together over time. And so we set off to head to Uganda. And now that story started like 8 years ago. And then within the last 8 years, it takes some time to figure out where you're going, what are you going to do. And then we had a couple extra kids we didn't.
God surprised us with David because I hadn't had a baby in 10 years, and then I had 2 hip replacements, and then God surprised us with Grace. And then I had my knee replaced a year ago. So just a lot of different things. But God was good, and he let us still be home when both our boys got married within the last couple of years.
So it's been a longer, slower process than we expected. Those are our two older boys and their wives. But our church is Edgewood Baptist in Rock Island. They just commissioned us out the end of last month. Reaching Out for Cousin Reach is the ministry. Jacob and Carol Lee, that guy, the ABWE, said, hey, we partnered with these people recently. We're looking to try to find a team to go in there. They've been praying for someone to come for a decade. And they went over when they were 58. And they're 70 now. And so I was like, 58? Well, I guess I can't complain that I'm too old to go in my 40s. And here they are, 70, and Jacob still plans to be there till he drops. And so we are blessed to be able to be mentored by experienced missionaries over there who've done amazing things. And ABWE has been a great organization to help partner and go alongside the church to help the church send us out. So we'll tell you a little bit about the area. That's going to be our home. You kind of saw that on the video real quick. And then there's kind of three main people group that we're going to be ministering to.
And our home is Moyo, by the way. Moyo was a little bit south of the circle, but that's our home.
So the first people group
is the Madi people. They're to the east of us, and there's the Metu Mountains, and so they're more geographically unreached. They're harder to get to. You can drive, I think they're like 45 minutes from us, and then you'll have
to the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah, to the bottom. Then you'll have to hike up the mountain to get to the villages and stuff. So they do not speak English there. They're uneducated. There was a Bible that was translated for them, but it's a very poor translation. It is a tonal language, so the Bible does not have any of the tonal markings in it. And they're illiterate, so they can't even read it. So I know Carol is working really hard to learn the Madi language so she can help translate, and they're working on doing that so that they can have the Word of God, not just trusting that whatever their pastor or whoever is talking to them, they can actually see for themselves in their heart language what is the truth of the gospel. And
when Jacob got there about a dozen years ago, there were two churches in the Metu Mountains, one at the base and one within the mountains. And since they've been there, they've been able to see 9 churches planted in 9 different villages in those mountains, all through local churches. So they work with the local church to plant and train pastors. But there's still 20 more villages that don't have any church at all. And so there's still a lot of work to do in that area. And most people in that area are trusting in a works-based, the overwhelming majority are trusting in a works-based way to get to God, which you guys know will not get you there.
All right, and then to the west of us is the Aringa people, and they are the last unreached Native people group there in Uganda. They are predominantly Muslim, but Jacob has created great opportunities. God has opened doors for him to have conversations like that. You see the one with the picture of the guys sitting on the chairs. That's outside the mosque. They had just finished worshiping their false god, and they're getting to have these open conversations with them with dual language tracks. They're either in Aringa in English or Arabic in English, and have these open dialogue conversations with them. So that's come a long way too, because you'll say, I think when he first got there, they would, behind his back, give sign like, we need to kill this guy. But God has protected him.
Yeah. It's been incredible to see the open doors. In fact, one of the top sheikhs, so that's kind of like they're a pastor for a mosque, has come to Christ and is now an evangelist in the area. And he walks with his wife from village to village. And of course, he has a lot of clout. One, he's older, so they revere older people. And then 2, obviously, you were a teacher of Islam. You were like there's like a top guy, and then he was like one of the second level guys in that whole district. So pretty high up. And for him to turn to Christ was pretty incredible. And so he knew Arabic, he knew the Quran, but he could see the discrepancies, the problems in it. And so he would talk to Jacob privately and ask questions about who's Jesus? What is this Bible? What is this that you're teaching? And ultimately came to Christ. The last people group are the Sudanese. And so the Bidi refugee camp that you saw up there is the second largest refugee camp in the world. There are 250,000 people, and you can't call it a camp, right? At 250,000 people, that's bigger than like Des Moines, Iowa. And we talked about how 40,000 of those refugees were kids when they came in, right? Under 18 with no family members coming alongside them. God does things we wouldn't think to do, right? And so Sudan is a very dark country. It is in the top 10 most dangerous places to be a Christian. You can lose your life, you can go to prison, and it's hard to get the gospel. And the vast majority of people in Sudan are unreached peoples. But God has used civil war for years and famine to drive millions of them out of their country into surrounding countries. And many of those surrounding countries are more open and free, like Uganda, where we can share the gospel with people who would otherwise never hear it in their own country. And so there's 250,000 people, which is an enormous task, that need to hear the gospel in their language. Sudanese Arabic is where we'd want to start, but they all have their own dialects and languages based on where they come from in Sudan or South Sudan. And but again, we're partnering with local national people to train them and to allow them to grow churches in the refugee settlements. Jacob does a lot of work to resource these guys, bring in books, bring in training, and it's just a huge opportunity to get unreached people in a place that's not their home. Which, by the way, we have that same opportunity here in the U.S. If you have a college, but we have many colleges in the U.S., there's lots of people who come from overseas to come learn, and there's great opportunities to reach people who would otherwise be very difficult to get to with the gospel. So we'll talk to you about the ministry there, the campus. You're looking at it.
Yeah, so as Aaron pointed out earlier, this will be where we live. The property is lined out with 1,000 mango trees. They use that to
help support
the ministry there.
Yep.
But they also use it as a training for the local farmers or the ones that are coming in, because that's how they work and survive and provide for their family. And then the housing area in the middle, it's a mixture of training centers and also living. So for Jacob and Carol, a house for them and a place for us to live. And then, this is why I don't talk in front of people. Homes and stuff like for the people when they come for training, they have a place to sleep and stuff. And then they bought more property to the east there that they're going to be. What are they doing there? I don't remember.
That's more mangoes that they've been able to purchase more mangoes. So once that's all filled out, there's a juicing company that will, instead of what they're doing right now is hiring people to harvest and then selling that, a juicing company to come in and take care of everything, and that helps. Because what we want long term, right, is we want to hand this off to a national, and then we want it to be self-sustaining ministry. We don't want it to have like an umbilical cord to the west forever.
And then across the road there, that small little strip there, they have
right there.
Big dreams for creating like a medical center, maybe for optical and dental and stuff like that. So that's in the works too. So.
Yeah. They'd also love to do like a radio station, but it's been difficult to get approval through Uganda's layers of red tape and ever-changing decisions. The government, I mean, you think sometimes it's bad here, but it's much worse there.
And this is a picture of some of the campus on there. Jacob built this stuff with the help of the locals and stuff, but some of it, I think you talked about it already, about getting shipments of Bibles and books and stuff like that, and he'll use those crates.
Those containers. Yeah.
To help build these buildings and stuff. And they're not a spot on campus doesn't have Jesus' name out there, or scripture, or quotes from theologians, or
Missionaries, yeah,
missionaries
yeah.
and stuff. So
Yeah.
no doubt that God is there. And then we do mercy ministries too. We dig boreholes for wells to give clean drinking water. They partner with Hope Smiles in southern Uganda. They come up twice a year to provide free dental services. A lot of it's teeth pulling, but they do it for an entire week. And each day there's more and more people. They cannot get through to everybody, so they're hoping to be able to do it more frequently.
Yeah.
So it's a huge blessing.
Over 100 people a day. They line up super early in the morning before the sun rises, and they come back every day. And then Friday's the hardest day because they can't tell anybody left over, you can come back tomorrow, it's done. The teeth pulling is because many of the people who come have never been to a dentist before in their life, and so they're beyond the point of like being able to fix it. But you know what's great is Jacob and the ministry there, Hope Smiles is a Christian organization. People who have their mouth open and you're working on their teeth are pretty much a captive audience to the gospel. And so it's a great opportunity to share the gospel with many, many people.
And then we also have provided some medical services. This little girl had elephantitis in her foot, and they raised money to help send her, I think it was to Germany, to have surgery to fix that. We've also done one for, I think it was another little girl who had a heart problem. They sent her to India to have that taken care of. And then they also do these mama kits. You can imagine what having a baby in Uganda would be like. The healthcare is not very good, and so they help provide things because Uganda's like, we don't have it. So to provide things for the mamas to take to the hospital with them to have their babies safely. And
with the average family having 6 kids, you see a lot of pregnant ladies walking around.
But like Aaron said, everything is done with the gospel. That is, a lot of times you have these mercy ministries and then that's it. But it's always the gospel alongside these mercy ministries.
And then, unlike here in the States, you can get on top of a vehicle and start to preach and people will gather and listen. And so there's open air evangelism opportunities frequently. In Iringa, that's more of this city. Madi is, you're not gonna do that. And so it's amazing. It's a great opportunity that people come out and listen and hear about a Jesus they kind of hear about in Islam, but they don't know truly, right? It's not the true version of who Jesus is, and so they come and listen, and those are great opportunities. Carol gets to work with the ladies who are often disregarded in that culture. And so Amanda will get that opportunity as well to minister to both Christian women who need discipleship and help, and to reach out to Muslim women. Just like the other picture earlier, this is another photo of tracts being handed out just outside the mosque. The photo in the bottom is me with the top sheikh in the Yumbe district, along with some of his assistants, you could say, in the area. And we got to talk with them. We got to pray with them. I heard Jacob pleading with that guy, come to Jesus. As we were waiting, he had kind of a medical emergency while we were there, and while we had driven him to a clinic and waiting on some blood tests, he was begging him, and the guy was just like, maybe later, maybe later. We were able to give him a large print Bible in English because he knows English, and some other books and resources, some soccer balls with the gospel verses on them for kids to play with because they love soccer. This is the Hall of Tyrannus. This is where all of the teaching on campus happens. And so we bring guys in who are either pastors who want to be pastors, and we train them from morning to night all week long. Because these guys are farmers, they can't take off for months at a time and go to college. They couldn't afford that anyway. And so we do that on campus. And a lot of the times we do these trainings when local churches here come there. So it's really cool. It's a really great way to connect the churches here and have them. Most of you, maybe all of you, know more than most of these guys, if not all these guys. We did New Testament survey the week I was there, and I was shocked by how little they knew, but yet they were pastoring churches. So there are all kinds of opportunities. If you have been a Christian and are a mature Christian, for you to come and help teach and help train and help disciple, and really get your, see it, feel it, smell it, touch it, right? And get connected to the ministry. And we love that. We love churches working with churches to fulfill God's Great Commission.
And it's not just for the men, too. It's for the women and teenagers, even, because there's so
well, not for women pastors, but I mean, like women.
there's so many women that desire to be
Yeah.
taught as well. And I think you had somebody tell you that when you were visiting. And there's so many children. And I just know God's going to have me do some kind of children's ministry, even though that's not what I want to do. But so there's opportunities to just pour into these children and to the women. So yes, and being a preacher, because
yeah. And if we can get pastors to train the husbands and wives of these families in God's word, and these people will train their children and disciple their children, right? Then that's 6 times less people we have to go and evangelize and disciple next generation, right? Like, it's kind of like ground floor. Uganda is the second fastest growing, or second youngest country in the world. And so the population is growing rapidly. South Sudan, right above us, is the fastest growing population. And so there's just lots of opportunities. We want to get ahead of the game and get Christ into the family through the local church. And so it's just a great opportunity. This was the graduating class of that week, and a third of them were Sudanese, a third of them were Mahdi, and a third of them were Ringa. We didn't plan it that way; it just happened to be that way. And so it was wonderful to see. Sometimes people don't know language as well as others, and so their brothers are helping them out as the teaching is going on. We try to make the teaching very interactive for it to stick. And sometimes the teaching doesn't happen on campus. We go out to the churches and we do training because sometimes they can't make that walk or they can't find that motorcycle ride to get there. They have responsibilities. And so sometimes there's day trainings or longer that happen in different places in that region. This is when we were in the Metu Mountains, me and Jacob. Jacob works with Crossway and Christian Book Distributors and brings in containers of good, solid theological books and Bibles. And his motto is that, like, books will go places missionaries can't, and they will often stay longer than missionaries can stay. And so he wants to resource people. And it's really neat. I think Crossway and CBD only really charge the shipping cost for the most part. And all the books and Bibles are free. And so
he's actually become a distributing center there.
In the region.
The region.
Yeah.
So he's used one of his shipping containers and has created it as like his book, library holding store, whatever the words are.
And so these are some ladies at a women's conference that were given an African study Bible. There's some men, and these are men in this, some men that are Sudanese refugees in the refugee settlement there, the Bidi, that were given some materials. These are believers in Sudan, and so that's why their faces are blacked out. It's very dangerous. And they get materials sent to them. In fact, they have to get smuggled in. So guys will come down often on little motorcycles. They call them boda-bodas. And they'll get boxes. Jacob will give them boxes as much as they can hold on a motorcycle, which is a lot more than you might think. If you've ever seen photos of what people can carry on motorcycles over there.
People can fit on the motorcycle.
Yeah. You don't even need a minivan. You just got a motorcycle. Yeah. And so they load up their motorcycles with what they can as far as books, and they travel. And there's a story. One of those trips, the men were captured by the police and put in jail. But then the next morning, they came to the men and said, "We were reading some of your books last night in Arabic, and we didn't know that Christians wrote such wonderful books. Next time you come, will you bring us some?" And then let them go. That's like, that's a God thing, right? God's still getting people out of prison. It didn't end with Paul. And so it's just amazing to see God at work. And it's great if you ever get a chance to go overseas somewhere, to be reminded that God is at work all over. He is saving people we don't even know about. That the world nobody knows about the Mahdi people in these villages in the mountains. They're not in any news station, but God loves them and cares for them and is saving them. And it's just incredible. It opens your eyes to a little bit more to the glory of God, to see Him at work around the world. So that's a snapshot of what we do. And we'll open it up to any questions you guys have. If you have any questions at all.
I will not run around with the microphone, though. I ain't gonna do that. Sorry. I got a bad, mean foot, so I can't do that.